we start thinking in more elaborate ways. And the elaborate planning actually is not done mainly from Langley here in Washington, D.C. area. It's done from a different CIA station. Now, where are CIA stations generally? Are they in Idaho?
Overseas.
They're overseas, right? CIA stations are in Moscow, they're in Havana, they're in Beijing, except for the CIA station in Miami, Florida. All right, known as Jmwave or Jmwave without the slash or JM Space Wave. We're going to talk about it as the Miami station. This was a CIA station in a domestic city, Miami, Florida. Not supposed to be that way, but it was. During the majority of the 1960s, the largest CIA station in the world, other than the one right here at headquarters, was in Miami. Not Moscow, not Beijing, not Berlin, in Miami, Florida. And it existed under the cover name of Zenith Technical Enterprises Incorporated. This was a building. Anyone know Miami well? All right, good. So now I can make stuff up. And it was actually over by where currently the Miami Zoo, kind of in an area that used to be an air station during World War II. It was called the Richmond Air Station. It had blimps, dirigibles during World War II in the middle of nowhere. No one would ever drive by there. So when the Zenith Technical Enterprises popped up, no one gave it any second thought. It actually had used to be called several different things. These are some of the cover names. You know, Double Check Corp, Gibraltar Steamship Corp, Vanguard Services Corporation. As benign and, you know, boring names as you could possibly come up with, so no one would ask anything else. Again, the largest CIA station in the world, 300 to 400 officers at its height. Right? Peter can tell you that's pretty big. All right? $50 million budget in 1961 dollars. This is an annual budget. That's a massive amount of money. And not only do you have 300, 400 people working for CIA, but under the auspices of the CIA Miami station, you probably have about 15,000 Cuban exiles that are, I'm quoting this from a CIA document, connected to them in one way or another. This could be people directly working for them, like Felix Rodriguez. This could be people they're working with as part of splinter groups or other things like that. But this is a massive enterprise and actually ends up being one of the biggest employers in South Florida. Miami today, you know, the glitz and glamour and LeBron and all that stuff would not exist if it wasn't for Fidel Castro and the CIA. I'm not exaggerating. To give you an idea, they had 4 people at the CIA station just working on acquiring real estate and managing the properties that the CIA owned down in Miami. And I have a list here. I'm not going to read off like marinas, hunting camps, things like publishing things to make paraphernalia, to make propaganda, safe houses. All these things were bought and sold by the CIA station. They leased more than 100 cars. You got to think about this, right? You're bringing 400 officers down there, and you're relocating, let's say, thousands of Cuban exiles. They all needed homes. They all needed to shop at stores. They all needed to buy food. The economy of Miami went from being a sleepy town where a lot of snowbirds relocated to a bustling metropolis it is today because of the CIA station and Fidel Castro in the early 1960s. I love this. The CIA station ran the third largest Navy in the Caribbean, just after the US and Cuba. Access to state-of-the-art aircraft at Homestead Air Force Base. But it was the worst kept secret in Miami. Now, I have considered a great story. My father, the reason I grew up in Miami is my father grew up in Miami as well, and he was not CIA. He actually was a PE teacher when he graduated from college. So he started out as the least top secret thing in the possible universe. His college roommate, after they'd all stayed in Miami after they had graduated, his college roommate said, "My car broke down, I need a ride to work." So my dad's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. Tell me where you need to go." And they're driving down south, and then they turn right onto Southwest 152nd Street, and they say, "Oh, it's over here, Zenith Technical Enterprises." And my dad goes, "I didn't know you worked for CIA." Everybody, it was the worst kept secret in Miami. The cover story didn't mean anything. It was to the point where everybody understood that this was where the CIA was operating out to try to kill Castro. And eventually they even had to change their name again because so many people knew what Zenith Technical Enterprises was, and they picked something even more obscure sounding, the Melmar Corporation. Got to the point where it was just kind of a joke about how the secret operation working against Castro was being held down in Miami. And this wasn't a small building. It's hard to see. This is kind of a massive enterprise. And I'm going to walk over here for a second. These are big buildings, so it took this massive amount of space in Miami. These big buildings, it was considered the University of Miami South Campus. That's actually who they rented the space from, the University of Miami. And then UM basically said, you just keep it. Just keep it. You basically transformed it now completely into a government-run facility. It's all yours. And so this is not something you could keep secret, right? It's one thing if you have a safe house or two out in the middle of the woods where you're running a couple operatives out of. It's another thing if you've got 400 CIA case officers and several thousand Cubans going in and out of this compound in South Miami. And there are stories that Felix Rodriguez tells a great story of them going out and training in the Everglades and being pulled over by Florida State troopers, and the trooper looking in the back of their station wagon and seeing 57 millimeter recoilless anti-tank rifles in the back of their car, and them being like, you know, what it was just kind of a nudge, wink thing, like go on your way, go on your business. It's not that odd to me that you have an anti-tank weapon in the back of your car because you're speaking in a very heavy Cuban accent and you're out by the CIA station. It's just one of these things that everybody understood.